back, folks. In a very special place. You're going to find out when you start seeing what's here. Welcome to the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm here on a work trip and had a couple minutes to go see the museum and figured I'd bring you guys along. Here you can see, real quick, the early 1900s bikes. Then we move on to the kind of 1930s and 40s. It's always kind of interesting when you look at these old Harleys and Indians and stuff like that, how they converted from being a powered bicycle into a true motorcycle, what we would consider it today. And they didn't really standardize the controls on a motorcycle until more recently, which is kind of neat. Wow, this is pretty cool. Look at the beautiful paint jobs. Man, that is awesome. So this is a wall of Harley tanks. Now, they're all Fat Bob tanks or something like that are just painted to have graphics that were on all different Harleys of different eras. But it's really cool to kind of see, the old school original coloring, and then see kind of the new designs they came out with. And then, of course, as Harley likes to do, retro throwbacks that have some amount of newness to them, but then also kind of kick back to the older tanks. So you can kind of see that there's stuff in the 80s that looked like the stuff in the 50s, there's stuff in the 50s that looked like the stuff in the 30s, and it just kind of cycles every 20-30 years. I would say just like fashion does. So it's kind of neat. All good ones. Now we're moving into some Harley race history. Something I did not realize before I went to this museum was just how much racing Harley did back in the day. I mean, they were number one, number two in basically any type of racing that existed. In some sense, they kind of created the modern dirt bike with hill climbing, as you'll see in here later. And it's just kind of interesting, the amount of racing pedigree. It's really a shame that they're not in more racing nowadays. I know they've kind of recently entered back into the Bagger Race League and stuff like that, which is super cool. I really like watching that. But hopefully there's more. Hopefully they make a super bike someday. This is a land speed record setting bike. If you look real close to that sign, we're talking low 100 miles an hour, which is just amazing that was a huge, huge feat back then. And that's something now that off the shelf, a lot of motorcycles can just do no problem. So really neat how technology increases like that. It does also remind you that modern people are a little crazier than I think we give ourselves credit for, because we will strap ourselves onto some ridiculous machines and go out and have fun, and not taking into consideration that people even 50 years ago couldn't even go as fast as we can go, at least at the same price point. So kind of interesting. Tying right into that, these are basically the first dirt bikes to ever exist as far as I know. At least kind of functioning as a dirt bike. They're street Harleys that they put knobby tires on and took off-road and did endurance challenges with. And I'm sure they were one heck of a ride, but they did do the trick. These bikes on the wall are the hill climbing bikes that I was talking about earlier. I kind of blended that in with the dirt bikes because similar idea. A lot of off-road pedigree in Harley's history, actually. These bikes had chains on them, going up the steepies. Pretty cool. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Oopsie. That is so crazy. Stuff you wouldn't barely do on a dirt bike, much less a freaking Harley. Wow. Oh boy. No helmet. Okay, now we're talking here. Let's start from the start. There's a lot of little weird engines I never knew of. Wow. Never knew about some of these. I've never actually seen a shovel head valve cover off the bike. So, to be honest, I had no idea Harley had so many different engines. I mean, a lot of them were using the different race series and stuff like the XR 750, and then they had the WR series earlier on. So that makes a lot of sense. But still, I don't know. I kind of thought they had like 6 motors, right? A couple Sportster engines, 4 or 5 big twins. I did not realize they had a whole wall worth. Obviously the V-Rod stuff too and whatnot, but Here you can see me essentially playing with kids' toys, like the child that I am. But it's kind of fun, and if you don't know how the inside of an engine works, you can see the intake, exhaust, compression, and I missed one. Stroke. Knuckle. That's so recognizable. Got it. 100%, baby. Check those out. Those are classics. Wow, that's cool. Very cool. It's the start of the first fairings, basically. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but kept you out of the weather. Dirt stir. That's pretty cool. So this floor, which is the bottom floor of the museum, basically just has a whole slew of bikes through different eras of time. And what I really like about this area is that they have like some custom bikes, and they have like one of Willie G's Dynas, and they just kind of have stuff that's, I don't want to say less museum quality because it's museum quality, but I don't know, it's more like real, I guess you could say. And it's just cool to see that they have that in the museum. Don't get me wrong, the top floor is really awesome too because you see all the old classics perfectly restored, how they would have came off the showroom floor kind of thing. But it's just kind of cool to have a little bit of both in the museum. Unreal. Look at this thing. So these are all really unique bikes. The Cafe Racer Sportster, of course, is super unique. They only made it a couple of years. Kind of had a bit of a cult following. And then Harley made a little super bike at one point in time. And man, they got to really come out with something like that again because it would just be cool to see a Harley powered bike out there on the MotoGP track. This section's super cool because you get to see how they do all the prototyping of the fairings and doing the frames of the bikes and just kind of the overall design. And automakers do a lot of similar stuff, but what's kind of interesting about motorcycles, of course, is your engine and all your like functional components also have to be stylish. Whereas a car, especially nowadays, they just kind of make the body stylish and the interior, and then they hide all the engine under plastic covers and whatnot. So it's kind of cool to see like how they integrate the suspension and everything else into the overall design of the bike, and it really takes some true artistry and craftsmanship. And then you of course have to make it affordable to produce, and so they can make a little bit of a profit and still have the bike function. So it's definitely a balance. Here you can see all the little design iterations for the new Sportster models. And if I'm being honest, I don't think they did the best job of designing them to be visually appealing. But there's room for improvement, and hopefully over time they'll tweak them a little bit. But it is kind of cool to see the different design steps and clay models they have for it. I thought this quote was really cool. Chief engineer at Harley way back in the day, basically saying, "I want to know how our devices are holding up to hard service on the road. If there's any issues, they want to know about it." And I just think that attitude needs to be more prevalent in people's businesses, and just taking pride in your work and wanting your customers to have a good, solid product, not trying to cut corners and just absolutely maximize profit, right? Make a good product, go home, make enough profit that you can have a nice house and have a good family situation and all that, and put your best foot forward on whatever you're producing. Freaking crazy, man. Wow. Cool. Well, guys, let me tell you what. This was a pretty darn cool experience. I'm going to do voiceovers on a lot of this. You should definitely come here. For me, it was a no-brainer since I was in the area for work. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching. God bless America, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.